What's up, everybody? It's Keith from Vitality Sports Solutions. Let's talk injury prevention, injury reduction. One of the best ways to do that, or the best ways to limit any training injuries, is to train through all planes of motion, right? Sagittal, frontal, transverse. Let's focus today on the frontal, and let's focus specifically on the lower body. I love to train adductor magnus. I think it's a very important muscle group for hip anatomy, as well as knee health, low back health, all that good stuff. Works with hip adduction as well as hip extension, so which are all very important in everyday life chores, but as well as being on the course. So we want to make sure we're strong in all parts, and today we're going to focus specifically on that adductor magnus. So the exercise I want to go over is the glider lateral lunge. Now, a lateral lunge is a pretty common exercise. You've probably seen it, done it. It's just to step out and then step back in, right? That's your lateral lunge. You can also do a lateral squat. So you start in a split position about 4 feet apart, and you would go side to side here. That's the lateral squat. Big difference between those two. The lunge has a deceleration portion of it where the squat doesn't. You're already there. But I want to get into the glider lateral lunge. So using pretty standard piece of equipment here. You can use it to move furniture. They sell them on Amazon for like $6, $7, $8. And the exercise we're going over is the glider lateral lunge. Now, I try to use these gliders frequently because I think having to drag something just forces that muscle to fire a lot harder than maybe it normally would. So doing leg curls with this, body saw, I try to use this frequently. But here we go. This is our glider lateral lunge. Now, there's two other ways to make this a little more challenging. So I would consider that like phase one. Phase two would be to load it. You can use dumbbells or kettlebells. I like to use kettlebells whenever I can. It just hangs better in the hand. It doesn't roll in the palm. So it's a little bit easier to overload. Now, when we're doing these, you can do them goblet, which is fine, or you can hang them low. I like to hang them low because everybody's hip anatomy is a little bit different. So sometimes it's hard if you have longer femurs and you need to be bent at the waist a little bit more. It's harder to hold that goblet position for this exercise. So the way I like to do it is I use one kettlebell. I hold it on the same side of the leg I'm working, so opposite the glider. And as I go into this glider lateral lunge, the kettlebell is going to come down on the inside of that working leg. That kind of helps me to think about driving this knee outward, get that external rotation on the hip. It does not need to touch the floor. Sometimes it does. Kettlebells are a little bit taller than dumbbells, so sometimes it'll hit. There's a lot of factors that will cause that not to hit. Mobility, flexibility, hip anatomy, arm length, all that stuff. So we're not really too focused on it touching the floor, but we want it to come the inside of that foot. I'm doing the best I can to keep my chest up and perform these lateral lunges. Now, that's phase two. Phase three, you can do with or without the weight, but it involves the usage of a resistance band. So I just kind of loop it around a post. I want it to be below my knee, but above my ankle. I'm going to step into it with my glider side. Sucking wind already. And I'm going to perform that same movement, but now I have a force pulling me out. So I have to control that eccentric portion a little bit more. And then as I'm coming up, I'm now pulling against some resistance. So that adductor is really forced to fire as we get into that hip adduction as well as hip extension. Now, you can do this with weight if you want. You don't have to. Okay, so that's what I would consider phase three. So when I'm introducing these exercises, first of all, I want to do lateral squats, then lateral lunges, then I add the glider, then I add a load, and then I add the resistance bands. So that's about 5 different cycles of that same movement. So it's a great tool for your toolbox. It opens up a lot of doors, and then you can always resort back and start over in a new training cycle. Okay, so that's my spiel on the glider lateral lunge. Put it into play, add it into your training. Let me know how it goes.